always needed to learn, but never needed a lecture. In case you need a refresher, I've been on the east side. Keep trying, riding with my Mona Lisa. You see why my spin like ballerinas. Thrift shop, got a feeling like a freestyle.
Great, powerful Nic D. What is up, man? We've been touching base back and forth a little bit for a while. So right off the bat, I just want to say there's a couple of really awesome things going on. This is the very first Zoom podcast I've ever held ever. So you're the first, and that's the first for me too. So what's that?
So today's the day.
Today's the day, man, and I appreciate not only you taking the time to communicate with me, but obviously to take time out of your day to come on, because I know you're a really busy guy, and I follow some of your work. In fact, I mean, just to kind of touch on that and how I kind of like I was just telling you, I was a little withheld from talking about it because it's kind of funny. I came across your snippet of, you in the belly of the Odyssey, not the book, but the minivan, crushing Mona Lisa. And I was like, holy shit. I showed my friend. I was like, wow, he's so good. Never would I have thought we would have been here having a conversation.
Hey.
So this is a trip for me, dude. So I do appreciate you a lot for that.
You found it on TikTok or what?
What's that? Yeah, TikTok. Yeah, I've been following you on TikTok for some time, but I've been super, very inspired by your vlogs that you've been putting out on YouTube now, because I didn't realize you had such a following on YouTube as well. But talk about inspiration. I wanted to kind of dig into what inspired you. What's going on as far as, or rather, how is it that you came to be where you are now? Who inspires you?
As far as who, I like to be inspired by people, but I don't like to be influenced by them. Because
I know what you mean.
As much as you can be, right? Because everything's been done before. We're kind of just reinventing it and doing it our own way. There's very little that's original. As far as creating things, just unless you're Elon Musk, you're pretty much just reinventing the wheel. Especially with content. So, but who inspires? I don't get inspired too much by people's music. I get more inspired by how people carry themselves outside of music. So like, John Bellion, for example, obviously great artist, but more important to me, great human being. So
no kidding.
The way that he carries himself, the way that he,
that's a really good point, because that's really what determines, I guess, somebody's true character, at that point in which maybe they've had it all or accomplished as much or so much. It's really who you can still be, even though you might be very extremely fortunate, because that can sometimes deter people's character, I guess, from a foundational level, especially if you're very good at what you do. You can certainly tell that some people, some things come so easy to them that they could take it for granted and let it deter their character. But where did this all start from you? Because I know from your background, just doing a little bit of research, you have quite a background in cinematography and videography and photography. So I say your pictures. Do you take your own pictures, by the way?
So yeah, I own a photography and cinematography company. It's what I've
shit.
Yeah, it's what I've been doing a while.
That's your day job?
Yeah, it provides the income for my family. But very recently, I decided to go full-time music. But up until that point, I've been doing photo and video for, I don't know, almost 10 years.
Talk about that. What does photo and video mean? Do you do it for companies? Do you do it for people? Or do you make movies or
I do
plays?
A lot of weddings. I do small business. The town that I live in, I do their tourism department, like
no shit.
Content, like come visit Culpeper, Virginia, stuff like that. But so at the very beginning, I started pursuing music 2 years ago, like to the day almost. It was January 2019. And at that point, I was doing all my own content, photo, video, editing everything, shooting everything, handing a camera to a friend every now and again. But at this point, and for the last year and a half or more, Cakes Mitchell, a good friend of mine, is who shoots all my content. We edit it together, we develop ideas together, but he's always behind the camera now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that, man. And I'm very jealous about how like not jealous, but I love because I started as far as, on a very smaller level because again, I'm extremely intermediate with where I am with everything, but I had done vlogs for quite some time just out of fun because I like traveling and stuff like that, and I always like to have something to
Mm.
bring with me, and the style at which you're able to do it really shows. In other words, I mean
My
the
blog.
the
Or
yeah, your vlogs is what I'm
thank
saying. Yeah, the style is fantastic.
thank you.
Um, what goes into that? Like, why are, rather, what's inspiring you to
Alright,
starting to do vlogs? Because it's kind of a new thing for you.
let me see here. What's up?
Yo, what's up? That's what I like. That's
I'm
awesome.
on a Zoom interview right now. So, what's your name? Tell me your name and your stuff.
Locals Only podcast. My name's Mike, and we like interviewing artists and anybody who's ambitious and kicking ass out there. It's just, it's all
Here.
about the love.
Why did I start blogging? All right, so that decision came when I decided to go full-time music. You know, it's how it's always been. Here, let me put this in here actually. All right, why did I start blogging? So how it's always been is music. I've always done in my free time. Music's always been something that was last on my priority list. You
Like a
know,
hobby.
yeah, I'm a husband, a father. I own my own business that you know provides the sole income for my family. So it's like my priority, my family. My second priority is taking care of them. You know, so that's the business that pays the bills.
Hello?
Just the third thing was music, and
Oh, I gotcha.
um,
So when did you
pursue
decide to take music more seriously?
it as a career. That was 2 years ago, January.
And that's when you started doing music? Hello?
Yeah, that's when I
Yeah,
started pursuing
gotcha.
music as a career.
No
Internet
kidding.
school.
How long were you doing business for?
I'll say coming up on 10 years.
10 years. Holy shit.
Yeah.
How many is it just you or is there a team of people?
I used to have a team. I built it to kind of like a pretty big thing, and then I scaled it back when we had our son. So now it's just me and my wife.
Oh wow. Well, good for you still though to make it work for yourself like that and still be able to pursue your passions because obviously you wear many hats. You're a father, you're a husband, you're a business owner, and now you're a musician.
Yeah.
When did if I didn't ask you already, when did you realize that music was something that was really doing it for you? Because obviously it certainly popped off in a really big way.
Yeah. Well, the moment I decided I was going to pursue music, in my mind, I made the decision that now I'm a small business owner of my music business, right? Because if you want to do it as a career, you have to treat it as a business. Most people want to be music artists, but they don't treat it as a business, so they never get anywhere with it and wonder why they don't. Uh,
Mm,
in your mind, you gotta, as soon as you decide, hey, I want to be a rapper, I want to be a singer, I want to be a music artist. At that moment, you need to become a small business. Go get your LLC if you need to, go or at least sole proprietorship. Get that set up with your tax lady. Start treating it as I need to market. I need to find more. Uh, so I think every time I drop a song, it becomes an employee for me. Every time
that's a good point.
every time I get a new fan, new supporter, they become a volunteer for the same cause, right? So in my mind, it's a business, you know. So it was only a matter of time until it typically takes the same time it took me that long for a business to become profitable.
Yeah,
Um,
I see what
so
you're saying. The components behind it are more passive than they are like make a song, put it out, and then that's it. I
yeah,
see what you're saying, how it can be something that inevitably could work for you as time goes on, provided you put in the work to make sure it gets out there.
yeah, yeah.
What do you think the biggest hang up is for most artists who are trying to get from, just being hobbyists to being official artists, or at least, from some form of verified sense?
Well, first it comes to the decision, right? If you're just putting out music for fun, just keep putting out music for fun. If it feels good, whatever, you enjoy it, do it. But if you want it to be a career, you got to treat it like a business. And what most people do, they put out songs and just hope that, that maybe this will blow up. That's just not the case most times. Some people get lucky, but um, what you need to do because they'll make a song, they'll pay for a music video, they'll pay for mixing mastering, they'll pay for cover art, they'll pay for photos, they'll get studio time, and then they'll post it to the same 500 people. They don't market themselves to get in front of new people who then have the opportunity to decide whether or not they like them.
So I could see that happening too. That's actually a really good point. Um, so as far as like the career of being an artist, how long did it take you before it started to have to give back a little bit?
I've never paid myself a dollar of my music income. I just use it to keep growing the music,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why
Yeah,
we treat it as a business. Most people, they
pad their
get
pockets.
yeah,
Yeah,
they get it, $250. They go buy some shoes. I'm like, $250, pay for marketing and turn that into 500. Like,
yeah,
so that's what you got to do over time. And people just expect, boom, they start making $1,000 a month, and then they want to live off that.
true.
It doesn't work like that. You got to compound that, keep going, keep releasing music. Every song's an employee.
That's true. Where do you find your inspiration behind some of your music? Well, let me ask you this better. What would you define the genre of your art? Because it's I'll just say it out loud. You have a fantastic voice,
Thank you.
but you can also rap. You know what I mean? Like, so you do a fantastic job of combining those two, and it almost has its own its own thing. It seems like.
It's all over the place. I just sent an email to a publishing company the other day, and it was like singer songwriter, pop punk, trap, hip hop, uh, pop, R&B. It was like a song from every genre, and I mean, I don't know. I just like to create. My message has always been the most important thing to me. What I'm saying. Um,
What's your message?
it's always pretty consistent. It's a theme. If you go and look, it's either glorifying my wife. So you know, making it clear.
Yeah, I've noticed that even. I personally have noticed that in the few songs that I've heard from yours.
Yeah, doing
Like,
that for sure. And then I don't like the content of what's in popular music. So I'm trying to make music that sounds like what people would like, but fill it with content that is wholesome or inspirational or motivating, and not degrading and objectifying women, or
right.
you know or
That's sort of the easy way out, succumbing to like vulgarity
yeah,
on
that's easy.
every level.
That's easy.
It is.
That's easy. Takes more thought and intention to write about.
Exactly. I think I was having this conversation with a friend actually, and you're absolutely right. There's a huge difference between really thinking out your lyrics from a poetic standpoint, so that way you're conveying a message versus just saying things that might rhyme.
No doubt.
You know, and that's something that kind of comes through with a lot of your music. What do you think? What's your most popular song right now?
Like the last 28 days or total streams,
Maybe yeah, total streams.
quarantine, summer, or mood probably.
Yeah. What? No. Why do you think? Why do you think that one became more popular?
Did a good job marketing it.
Yeah.
Really, it's really like it really comes quality is subjective, but there's an audience for everything. So if you find
That's too
the
funny.
audience,
I was just having a conversation about that with somebody. It's really true. It comes down to how well, or rather, how consistent you can be.
yeah,
And I think what you said hits the nail right on the head is the marketing aspect of it.
yeah,
Because there's there's millions of people who would probably love the song. The question is, how do you get them to listen to it?
that's literally it.
And and I think you're right when you say, I think more often than not, and I'm probably even guilty of this myself because I've done very minimal marketing for even just like this podcast, but I'm trying to get as creative as I can and reaching out to people. I think this might be a very fun avenue is doing maybe more Zoom with people,
Yeah.
but um to assume that the algorithm is going to weigh in your favor is kind of is a little reckless. You're gonna have to almost what's the influence that yourself,
You
and it's going to
have
take
to.
marketing.
You have to influence the algorithm.
Yeah,
Because if you don't have people who already care, then you have to get in front of new people. And have them, like you said, influence the algorithm. The algorithm only works if you're working the algorithm.
And from where you are now, as far as the amount of followers and listeners you have, what was the progression like? Was it all of a sudden a spike, or was it a trend? It was just a slow trend.
I think Will Smith said it best. He said, you don't set out to build a house. You set out to lay a brick as perfectly as it can be laid. Next day you lay another and another, and eventually you have a house. I'm
Yeah.
sure I'm sure I botched that in a way, but that's basically what he said.
No, I know, and I know what you mean. In other words, it's not very good to have expectation to think that, like, back to releasing that one song or that one project or something, and assuming that all of a sudden it's just going to go through the roof and you're going to be famous. And I feel like a lot of people do that with, and I think that can really stifle the mindset that you need to be more consistent,
Yeah,
right? Because imagine if all of your expectations went into your next project, and obviously they're not going to be met. You're going to be extremely discouraged to continue. You're going to be, I feel like you'd be so discouraged to keep going. So, it's cool to hear you say that, because, you're obviously a great example of that, being where you are now in your career with the following that you have. Most people don't recognize that, and I think that's important, because I mean, there's a lot of people even in this area where I live who might give up on themselves because they don't realize that, yeah, it's a brick by brick process. It's not a house by house.
it's easy to give up. It's
Yeah.
easy to give up. Think about it, a lot of people, they want the one song, right? They want it to go. But if there's no catalog there after that song goes, nobody's going to care about it anyway. Well, how can a fan become a fan if they don't have a catalog to dive into? Another thing that
Right.
is important is, if you got 5 songs out, to make a living off of 5 songs, an okay living, uh, let's say $3,500 a month, like something most people can live off of, right?
Right.
So you need about 1 million streams a month. So if you got 5 songs out, you need each one of those songs to do 200,000 streams a month to be able to make a living. Now, in my mind, I'm like, if I drop 100 songs, I need each one of those songs to do 350 streams a day. That's attainable.
Jeez. Yeah, that's
That's
a
attainable.
much more realistic goal. Yeah.
That's attainable. The other one is like, you got to have a crazy audience to be able to pull that off.
Yeah. Or just really freaking crush a one-hit wonder song. Like
Yeah, and then lift your whole catalog up. But
like
what's more
five.
attainable? To get
Yeah.
lucky
Oh,
on one
absolutely.
song, or to drop 100 and have them all do really bad but still make a living?
That's a good point. Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, yeah. I mean, you could really just. That's the one thing I've really appreciated about the process, at least of doing like interviews and podcasts, is that it's a consistent thing, and you don't expect. I never really expected any episode to be the best episode ever. It's kind of just see where this goes, and sort of have fun with it. And I'm assuming, I mean, in a sense, is that kind of the mentality you have with the vlogs? What's the vlogs been like for you so far?
The vlogs are cool. Oh yeah, back to that. So when I decided to go full-time music, that means I'm prioritizing music. I'm prioritizing the content related to it. And I've vlogged a little bit in the past, nothing too crazy. I love doing it. It makes me more productive, to be honest. I'm really productive anyway. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I get a lot done. I'm like a workhorse, but having a camera there that I know that I need to create a variety of different things that I'm doing throughout the day, instead of waiting next week to go somewhere, I'll just do it right now. Or instead of, uh, watching a YouTube video because there's no content in a YouTube video for the blog, I'll
Right.
do something where I can get content.
So sort of it sort of keeps you going throughout the day.
Oh yeah,
And
keeps me
procrastination
focused.
can, yeah, exactly. Procrastination can be a killer.
Yeah,
It put a dead end to your day, and especially if you're already somebody who's susceptible to procrastinating,
yeah,
and we live in a world where you could scroll until the end of time because of just how much content there is.
yeah.
I like what you said about treating it like a business, because what most people don't realize is that we live in an attention economy. and things are a lot different now. And there's more content than there are people to even watch it.
Yeah.
So what that means is that audience is in demand. And so if you can create that, you
Create
have
more, consume less.
exactly create more, consume less, and it's such a great way to put it. Because I mean, there's a demand for it in that sense, and there's a demand, and people, it's easy to get in contact and rather consume the type of information that's getting out there now more so than ever because everybody's got a phone. What I'm surprised is that like television is even still a thing. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, it's gonna go. It's like the radio.
So
It's gonna go.
yeah, the radio is like how it's so hard to listen to the radio.
Yeah.
So I wanted to dive into onto like your experience performing. Like, have you ever done any concerts or shows or events?
I did a few, handful.
Yeah.
It's fun. I enjoyed it enough. I enjoy it way more when the venue knows what they're doing. Like
Oh, so you've had experiences where it's been.
yeah, it's just I had an experience at one place and they said they basically said they said some nasty things to me and
Oh,
I moved. I was like, okay, I'm gonna move my show, day of, morning of, because I didn't like how they was treating me. And they said, you need some tougher skin. This is the music business. I said, this is a part of the thing. You can keep all the ticket sales. I'm gonna find another venue.
yeah.
Because he was like, you're gonna breach contract, and I was like, no. I was like, you can keep every dollar. Don't worry about it. Money's not the important thing. I moved my show. Everything went cool, but sound was janky. But anyway, it was more that moment. It's like you can't just make the excuse it's the music business, get tougher skin. How about
Right.
treat people nicely? How about that?
I know. Well, you make a good point because it is easy to say, "I'll just get thicker skin," but a lot of the time, some people are unnecessary, like just a real asshole for no reason. There's no.
It wasn't like I was like, grr. It was just like I'm not gonna enjoy performing here because I don't like you that much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna go find somewhere else to do it. Like
Yeah, no kidding. It's bad business for them, especially like especially with your business understanding, you probably could see the kink in that armor real quick. I mean, that's
I
like,
was trying to help them out. They were a smaller venue. I was trying to, it only held 75 people.
oh my gosh.
The show actually sold out in 24 hours, which was cool. So I booked another one, and the second show was the issue, and that's why I had to move it. But
Now, did you perform by yourself or did you have openers or?
no openers. I had a friend of mine on the drums, but that was it. Yeah, no openers.
No kidding. So you did have a little bit. It wasn't just electronic, like it wasn't just the computer, or so you actually incorporate instruments into your live work sometimes.
Yeah. So the first half, this is how I was doing it before. The first half of the show is like really, upbeat, high energy. Got the live drums, backing track, whatever. The second half is mostly stripped down versions of my songs. So like I'll take "Mood" for instance. It's a really rappy song, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll sing it, over a guitar instead, so
Oh,
that
nice.
people actually hear the words. Because a lot of times they're just vibing, they don't pay attention. But when you strip it down, you don't got no choice but to pay attention. So
Yeah, that's a good point. Have you ever performed with any other popular artists in your area or any other areas? Have you ever had to travel?
no, I'm not huge on it. No, I'm not in a place where like I have that much draw. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
if I go on a tour or something, I'm not really huge on touring in general. I think my version of touring would be like take my minivan, go park somewhere, and like
Yeah.
come on
I
out.
love the dynamic you have with your minivan. You just an awesome job with it, and it's funny because you just spin it really well, and then all of a sudden you're performing. And it was funny because when I saw you doing that for the first time, I thought, well, that's like kind of genius because there's no better place to record sound than inside of a vehicle.
Yeah, right.
I feel like it's like a perfect place. Like, what would you call that? Studio, I guess, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you can't get any better. Even the I feel like the windows on a car are a little bit of sound suppression to the
But
point
it's
where
literally made to block out noise.
that's a good point too. That is a really good point because you wouldn't even think that, and that is so true. That's why you can roll up the windows and not have to hear all the crazy noises from the street and stuff. Um, so yeah, you only performed a few times then live, so you probably most of what you do is just through the studio and through the music and talk about what really complements obviously what you do on a daily versus your hobbies is you've been able because the first thing I thought when I saw your music videos is what I'm saying. I'm like, who does his music videos? They're freaking amazing, And I mean, what was that? Oh, sorry.
You good?
And how much has that helped you rather become better at your job as far as being able to work with that as well, being that you can do your own work on yourself?
Yeah, it's been great. Like I said, I used to edit. Like Cakes came on midway 2019 somewhere. He was shooting. I was still editing on my own stuff. And I finally he's been in editing a lot of them lately. Probably last year or so. Uh,
So he does
but
the editing.
we edit together. He
Okay.
drives. He does like most of the work. And I just throw out like use that clip or what about this here? Like I'll throw out ideas like that. Kind of a cheat code, right? Owning a media company. So it's kind of a cheat code owning a media company.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, in this world, rather in today's day and age,
Yeah.
it definitely is because I mean, everything's done on that medium
Yeah.
in its own way.
Yeah.
So what's been as an artist in all this for you? What's been the biggest challenge?
Balance, just balancing everything that I need to do, making sure that I'm being a good husband and a good father, and then still being, making time for creating music. I'm most passionate about the music when it comes to what I want to do for a living. So, music and content creation. Like I love vlogging. Like if I had an audience for vlogs,
Yeah,
I could just, um,
I can tell you have fun with that. I mean, and again, I'm somebody who used to watch like Roman Atwood and Fun for Louie. I don't know if you're familiar with those guys.
I know Roman and like Casey Neistat and
Yeah.
Peter McKinnon
Uh,
and those guys.
Yes Theory. You ever see those guys? Those guys are really good.
A couple times I watched them. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And it's one of those things where you have to have fun with it. It's not just so much having fun with what you're physically doing, but having fun with how you're recording it, and it's
absolutely.
actually very apparent in the way that you're doing that. Because I have fun, but I notice I have trouble understanding the physics of what a camera can bring to a visual perspective when you're watching it, and you're super aware of that. But it all makes sense now, being that you've been doing videography for so long and cinematography.
Vlogging is all pacing. It's
Yeah.
all pacing. It's like you have to look at it objectively. I care what I'm saying right now. Most people don't. So cut it off before you even finish talking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like because then they're like, "What's he? Okay, there's something new." It's always something new. You got to feed the dopamine to like make them never want to click off.
So what do you think about that reaction? What are your feelings like? Is that you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? Because I know exactly what you're saying by keeping the pace or the consistency of new visuals
Yeah.
very current, and that's essentially what's been going on for the longest time. Especially, I mean, in so many different ways and so many different levels of how it's shaping the minds of people on a daily basis because it is extremely appealing to consistently see new things.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just how it is. Instead of making excuses for, girl, why does it have to be this way? Adapt your content, you know?
Yeah.
Make a minute and a half songs. Stop making 4 minute songs. Nobody listens to 4 minute songs.
Mm,
Make a minute and a half song,
that's a good point.
chorus, verse, or just chorus, verse, chorus. Who cares? Um, And then like instead, people don't want to watch 20-minute vlogs, make 5-minute vlogs. Like just
Yeah.
you gotta think about your audience when you're making your content.
It's
You're,
funny too because you're right. It's like it's either you have a few seconds, a few minutes, or some people like for instance with podcasts, they'll do that. They'll do the hour or 5. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like
But
Joe
it's
Rogan had.
cool. It's cool, right? Joe Rogan's Joe Rogan, so. But
Right.
it's
That's true.
cool. The hour is cool as long as you break it up into 10 separate clips
Mm-hmm.
and post those clips individually with their own title and their own payoff.
Exactly. It'd have to
Post
have
the full
some.
thing if people want, but chop it up. I got a
Yep.
buddy who's doing YouTube right now. He jumps on a live every day, a couple times a day, goes live for an hour, talks about random stuff. Then he has 15 videos to post, That's content.
That's what it's funny because that's goes somewhere along the lines of what even Gary Vee was saying. I actually saw a short little video he was talking about one of the best kinds of um and I'm developing more of a understanding of what he meant by podcasts can be one of the greatest forms of content because like you were just saying, you can create the whole clip, you can create different clips, and then you can create sound bites. So you can almost create like 5 or as many as you'd like different forms of content based off of that. And that's kind of something I've been doing a lot on Facebook and on YouTube based off of what happens within the conversation is to what you were saying, take like a, you know, something that I could put a catchy headline on with a good thumbnail and essentially I really like to incite people thinking. I like to take things to an intellectual level sometimes. As much as I'd like to be funny, but I'm not comfortable behind the camera enough to be like super silly yet, but we're getting there.
Yeah, no, I feel you. And it just
It's
the biggest thing is you got to be you. You got to be authentically you. Otherwise, you're going to be chasing something that's not natural, for your whole.
exactly.
And you know what I mean? Otherwise, just be you from the gate, and then the audience that you build is going to be the right audience. It's going to create longevity because you're not trying to fake something or pretend something to try to just be you. The right people will gravitate towards that, and then you'll have a career with longevity.
Yeah, that's so true. I could see what you're saying by that, especially if who you're trying to be is not allowing you to be in the moment. Because if you forget about the moment, you'll be focusing on other things so much on a particular level that you can't even have a conversation. I found myself in that position a couple times where I'm focused because I do all the producing, and so I'm thinking about sometimes the lighting or the camera's positioned or stupid shit. It comes down to that. Honestly, I'll call it that because it is. It's like I should trust the equipment's doing what it is and not have to think like that or lose pace within the conversation. Because it's so important to be able to be there and be present. Otherwise, that you'll have no idea what to say,
Yeah.
or be thinking about what should I say next.
Yeah.
I was thinking too. So, what's the process like when you make a song? Is it something you just feel, or do you write your own poetry, or like does it come from somewhere specific?
Most times I'll play an instrumental and just
See how it
feel.
makes you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I like that.
Yeah. Nothing too like scientific about it,
Right.
Play it, vibe on it, make something that sounds good, and then move on to the next one. Done is better than
It's
perfect.
yeah. It's funny you say that too, because it's so often that people have these enormous expectations for the way something should be or is. And it's funny because music being the most popular thing in the world, I mean, it can affect people in such a deep way that, of course, in a sense, I would say to myself, well, of course they expect it to have some type of deep meaning. But often I feel like, yeah, the inspiration comes from the act of creating.
Yeah.
It's just sort of, yeah, it's just sort of, because I used to like make beats, and I remember how like making a beat would make me feel. I never sang or anything, but regardless of how good it was still a very deep feeling of like, oh, I made this,
Yeah.
and so that in and of itself is definitely I could see a very difficult process to put a finger on.
Yeah.
So talk about, I see your hoodie, and I see, the logo. What is FRDI? Or yeah, FRDI.
Feels right, don't it?
I like that. How long you been doing that? Is that just like just merch for your production company, or?
Yeah, no, this is yeah, it's from my music. Feels right, don't it? This is I just designed it the other day. I just maybe 4 days ago or something, 5 days ago. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I keep seeing cool posts about it, and it looks awesome. I love what you did with it. I've been
Yeah, it's just
sort of
it's go with your gut. Feels right. To go with what feels right. Trust your gut. Feels right, don't it? This is how I base a lot of my decisions. If it feels right, I'll do it. If it don't, I won't.
talk about that.
It's just what it boils down to, man. It's like I think my gut is like my moral compass, and it's just I don't do things that don't feel right. I avoid situations that don't feel right. I avoid people or meetings or phone calls or, you know, friendships, just whatever if it don't feel right, I just don't do it. I don't put any energy into it. It's not a good thing.
The simplicity behind that is amazing. And it's funny because it's so true. It's one of those things. It almost comes off as a cliche, but there is a lot of truth to that, and I think a lot of people ignore that.
Yeah, yeah. So now it's right here. It looks cool, Freddie,
Ready?
it feels right, don't it? So anyway, it's I'm excited for this. It's my first piece of real merch. I put out a couple things in the past. People asking, so I designed some things, but like this is like
That's your first line of merchandise that you've ever made.
I said, I did a couple things in the past where I just put words on. Like I put give more because that's something that I try to do in my. I put fear is a liar. Just
Yeah.
like little things, but like as far as like a Nic D logo or whatever, like a mantra, like this feels right, don't it? This is it, Freddie, right here. This is the first one.
Well, yeah, it's definitely really hip in that sense, and and it's funny too because where you are at is so much farther along in so many ways compared to so many people who I know personally who have gone right into making merchandise right off the get. Do you have advice maybe for people who should wait off on merch? Because I know that you probably see it too. To be honest, I mean, a lot of artists will come out, they get like 1,000 followers on Instagram or something, or 500, I don't even know, and start producing merchandise.
Yeah, I mean,
What's your take on that?
it's fine. People rush into it. And then my biggest gripe with merchandise is always that it seemed like, let me make a quick buck off my fans or something. Let me make a but people request it. I would say wait till somebody asks you,
Yeah.
hey, do you have merch? I want to support. Hey, do you this? And then another thing is like wear it first. So that's what a friend of mine told me. He was like, wear it first. He was like, make one for you and for your peoples and wear it for a bit. And if people say, hey, where's that hoodie from? I want it. Then drop merch, you know?
Oh, that's smart.
So it's like wear one. If nobody asks about it, that design wasn't that good, apparently. Do another
Yeah.
design. Rock it for a bit. This one, I've been wearing it. It's not out. Creates demand. Everybody wants it.
That's awesome. I was thinking, yeah, I keep seeing you with it, and it's like, and that's pretty much why I asked, because there's got to be some meaning to it. The thing, like, it's funny how just business oriented you are on that level. Have you ever been to school? Like, did you go to college or anything for any of this?
I got an associate's degree in general studies. I've never really used it. I always knew that I
Yeah.
wanted a flexible life, and that best way to do that is self-employment. So, um, yeah, well,
Are you? Here's a good question, because I actually own a business as well but I have two business partners, and I'm in the fitness industry, and we have a small, um, it's a pretty good size, like, personal training facility, and we work with post therapeutic patients and student athletes and stuff like that, and it's fun. For you, is it just you, or do you have partners as well?
It's just me. I mean, as far as my photo video, my wife she does like the back end emailing and scheduling.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just I'm the sole owner of the company. My wife came on, like I said, when we had our son. I started
Yep.
it originally years ago with a partner who left, and then when he left, I was able to kind of like move on my own and whatever. And then I grew it, hired him back as an employee, and then he left again, and then I don't know what he did after that. But so it's just, but yeah, since he left the first time, it's just been mine. It wasn't anything cool at that point originally,
Yeah. So you pretty much go off of like, weddings and venues and stuff. Is there any point where you want to move on from that, or is that something you see yourself doing forever?
Nah, I'm ready to move. I'm ready. That's why I just decided the other day to do full-time music. That's my goal, to do full-time music and content creation. But it's like,
Good for you.
How much. And I know because I do it all the time. Wherever you put your energy is what grows. That's it. Whatever you're focusing on, whatever you work on every day is what grows. It's just how it works. So I've
Time and
always
water
been
is
doing
the saying,
music
right?
in my free time. That's what I do, music in my free time and my extra time. And I've gotten it to where it is what you see now. So I'm like, at that point, I'm like, where can I take it if I'm doing it all the time?
Yeah, it's funny. I think it was Elon Musk who said, kind of going off of that, he said, envision where you want to be and try for a year to get there, right? Because no matter what, you'll still be way ahead of where you would have been without that mindset.
Yeah.
Because there's a good chance, like say you wanted to have 10 million followers or something like that, or fan base, listening base, whatever. The point is that without that kind of mentality, if you didn't actually pursue in that fashion, you wouldn't have yielded nearly the same results if you were to just going about it without that kind of mentality.
Yeah.
So taking it, what were you saying? Yeah, taking it to that point where you can trust your process and you're enjoying it too. I mean, you seem like you have a lot of really good time when you're making your music based off the vlogs and going to the studio. Now, do you have a different place that you record that isn't where you live, or?
I do. So let's flash back a little bit. So I have a studio for my photo video company, right? Before COVID. COVID come along and I'm not going into the office anymore. So I'm recording I had a small, like, handmade little booth in my photo studio.
Yeah.
And then COVID come along and I'm not going into the office anymore. So I'm recording at home. I'm recording on the couch, the kitchen table, the shed, whatever. And I'm being, too loud, and it's getting cold, or it was cold at the time. I think anyway, in the shed, like too cold to be in the shed. So I move into the van and I build the desk in the van and I set up and there's an outlet in the back of the van, like a legit, like.
No shit. Is the van kind of new?
That's a 2012, but it has literally, like, you plug in your laptop into that.
No shit.
Yeah. So then I'm starting recording the van, and then mini jam sessions come along. It's legit where I recorded probably 30, 50 songs in the back of the van, legit songs that are out, done, whatever.
That's so awesome.
And then mini jam sessions come along. I wanted to do live versions, and then it was either me or Cakes. They were like, let's do them out of the back of the van. I know Cakes came up with the name mini jam session. And then we just started doing them. People loved them. But it wasn't like a forced thing because that was where I was already recording, and it just felt right, It just felt right. So,
hence the hoodie.
yeah. And then, anyway, but now I got in a new studio in June. I do all my photo and video edits here, but I also have a recording booth here, and this is where I'm in it right now. This is, like I said, my little podcasting desk or YouTube recording desk.
Nice.
And I got my stuff over there, man. But yeah.
What are the advantages of like a studio in that sense versus you just doing your work at home or in the van? Is
Uh,
it just more space?
yeah, I don't want to make it seem like there's an advantage, right? Sure, it's like more convenient to come to a studio and it's like you got your speakers set up, you can buy, you can stand up and dance, you know, you whatever. But like
Mm.
people use equipment as a crutch, you know.
Or as an excuse?
Yeah, it's like I can't right now because I don't have a place to record. I was recording out of my minivan, and you don't got a place to record. Like I know you got a place to record. You're just making an excuse. Like if it's important to you, you're gonna find a way. If it's not, you'll find an excuse. And most people just find excuses.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's kind of like that saying, time doesn't make itself in that same way. I mean, I'm in what was my bedroom right now,
Yeah.
And it just made it, but that's such a good point because even back to what we were saying, if you really size things up, there's no better place to record music than a car, and if you have a car, then or a vehicle of any kind,
Yeah,
there you go.
you're good.
I mean, that's huge. And how long have you been doing music? I forget if I asked you. Did you start just only 2 years ago? You were
2
saying.
years like pursuing it as a career, but I've been messing around since high school, like just having fun.
Was there any point at which it seemed to be picking up in a more of a faster
When I
trending
start,
way?
like I like the music I used to make, I didn't really put it out. Nothing. When I started in January, it was like under 1,000 Instagram followers. I didn't start TikTok till 3 months ago or something. Zero, like what, 300 YouTube maybe subscribers, and this is all like 2 years ago, January. So I wasn't starting from like a launching pad. I literally started same way anybody else would start, but I had in my mind I am now a business, and how
Yeah.
do you grow a business? Not how do you make the cool song? How do you grow a business?
Well, I admire that a lot about you, Nick. I'll be honest, that's kind of the mindset I'm trying to develop myself, because I really enjoy doing this and taking the professional step in that right direction. That's why I say to everybody, I go, everything's 50% fun, 50% professional. You got to enjoy it, obviously. You got to be able to have fun doing it and get lost within it. But there also should be some rigid outlines to it as well. Time frames, the discipline to do it, the discipline to be focused enough to at least have some pride in your work so that the quality of your work trends upward in that sense as well. Without both those factors, if it's all just fun, then there's really no point to it, and it's hard for anybody to ever see it because you might not care enough about it to do anything. And if it's all just work, you're going to hate it so much that the longevity of you doing it might be extremely finite.
Yeah. And I always thought about it like this: it's 10% skill at whatever you're doing, and 90% if people like you or not.
Talk about that. That's interesting.
If people don't like you, they're not gonna listen to your music. It don't matter how good of a photographer I am. If I'm a jerk at the photo shoot, I'm not getting hired again. I'm not getting a good review.
Yeah.
I'm not getting referred. It don't matter if I'm the best photographer out. That's why it's 10% skill and 90% of people like you or not. That's business in my mind. You could have, let's say there's one place in town where they got the shoes that you want. But last time you were in there, they treated you like crap and accused you of stealing and whatever. You're not going to get the shoes from there. You're going to order them online, or you're going to, you know what I mean? Like
that'll be the last place you go. You're absolutely right.
It don't matter how good you are, people don't like you.
And I've found that to be actually very true now that you say it in so many different ways, because just growing up, going from high school to college and various jobs, a lot of the times it comes down, and even when in the process of hiring people myself and looking at other people's work ethics, I mean, attitude is such a massive component.
Oh yeah. I would, for me, I would rather, there could be someone in the music industry that knows what they're doing. They got the Spotify playlist plugs. They got they can get me on Jimmy Fallon, whatever. But if they're like an arrogant, like treat you like, I don't want nothing to do with you. I don't care what you could do for me. I'm gonna pass on that. And like for you at your little fitness facility thing, if you might not have all the best equipment, But if people walk in there and they feel loved and they feel helped and genuinely supported, they're gonna keep coming back. Whether what equipment you could have resistance bands and that's it. But if people like you enough, they're gonna come.
That's for damn sure. That's a very good point, because that's kind of what keeps us going. Because we're very good at, simple things like saying hi to people who walk in and bye to people who walk out. It's really all in the detail. It does. It does. I mean, there's a lot of places that you could walk into that aren't commercial. We'll say just like mom and pop shops, and sometimes they don't even say anything to you. You know what I mean? There's a lot of very simple things that I think could make the extra effort into being kinder to people more frequently. And that's got to be everything, because especially with your job, because you're going to be doing things that are so intimate for people, like documenting their wedding. I have a great friend who's a photographer, and she is the most people person of people persons, in that sense.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most powerful tool you can wield in that sense too. Now, how do you find yourself conveying that to your fans in the development of between YouTube and Instagram, Spotify?
Conveying which part?
Is there any strategy you have to being very open to your character and demonstrating that to people?
I think it comes down to, so something simple as responding to DMs, responding to comments, goes a long way.
I'll be honest. Right. I was very surprised you got back to me, because I was like, oh, it's a shot in the dark. I love his stuff. Maybe he'll like to come on sometime, because I do all kinds of different artists, and there's so many people. And that's a big thing. There's just so many amazing artists such as yourself. I mean, people who even at the level you're at, I don't think you get the recognition you deserve. You could, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of music out there that you wonder how the hell it even got on the radio in the first place. It blows my mind comparatively to what there is out there, like yourself and various other artists that I've had on this show. In general, it's amazing. What do you think that comes down to?
It's just networking who you know. I wrote it in a lyric the other day. I said, why does networking seem like a pyramid scheme? The algorithms got control of steering your dreams.
Oh, that's awesome. Holy shit.
Yeah, like networking, piece of it is really, it's a pyramid scheme. It's like there's somebody at the top, and then there's people that know him, and then there's people that know those people, and then there's people that, it's lit, and it's like you somewhere down there, you meet them, and you're trying to get the word back up to.
Yeah.
Oh, so I just keep my head down and try to figure it out.
Do your thing. Well, consistency seems to be obviously one of the most powerful things you can wield. Or perseverance.
So consistent, it's impossible to ignore you.
Yeah. Well, have you ever seen The Founder? It's on Netflix, and it's a story based off of Ray Kroc, the guy who owns McDonald's. And he's not the founder of McDonald's, but if you're familiar with who Ray Kroc is, he was actually like a salesman for he went door to door for restaurants selling like an ice cream machine. And his persistence, he said, everybody has skill, but I'm going to totally botch the quote, but long story short, persistence always wins over almost everything else. You could be, I think even you said it in a different way. Doesn't matter how good you are at something, if you're not going to be consistent or persistent or perseverant, what do you really believe the outcome's going to be?
I got time for like one more, and then I gotta run.
Here's one for you. I'll shoot you an edgy question, because I did it to the other artists I had on before as well. But something that happened last year, and I was not arguing, but having fun with a friend about it. But who do you think won the rap battle between MGK and Eminem?
I obviously listened to it, right? I obviously listened to it. I don't typically dive too deep. I really don't like talking on things that I don't know what's or why's about. Like why was
I guess all the
why this that. I like the Haley comment, and then he got a little dish, and then MGK responded. Whatever. I don't know. Here's what I'll say. I love the music MGK is making right now.
Oh, you're MGK. Team MGK?
I love the music that he's making right now. I love the pop punk. I love the I think he's at home right now. I think he feels comfortable. I think it feels right for him to be making what he's making right now. Not to say he's not a damn good rapper. You know, he's a great rapper. Eminem's obviously Eminem. But I am a fan of what MGK music is right now. Absolutely. And I didn't really dive into MGK that deep before. And now it's like I'm checking in on everything he releases because it's like I love the lane that he's in. I think it's more natural for him.
He's good. He is good. I like what he's doing with, who's the drummer? Travis?
Yeah, Travis Barker. Yeah.
Barker, yeah.
Working a lot with Mod Sun and I'm sure Youngblood, you know, I think they're friends. But I think him and Mod Sun work closest together.
Yeah. And I if I could shoot you really quick a question too, because I almost forgot to, is as far as like how YouTube works, this is more of a question personally for me because I'm new to this. What is your take on how YouTube works? I mean, is there a certain way I'm assuming the main answer is obviously consistency, but to develop a fan base on YouTube, because it's probably the most difficult of all the platforms.
I'll tell you this. I've been doing research on it because I've never been much of a YouTuber. I just post my music videos and stuff like that. But now, right, that I want to be full-time content creator and music and the vlogs, right? The goal, how to get into the algorithm is audience retention and watch time. That's literally it. So the best way to do it, and I watched videos, and you can watch them too. They're on YouTube. Watch interviews with Mr. Beast. Watch interviews about how Dude Perfect does it. You know, obviously the title, right? Mr. Beast said this in an interview. He said, if your title is "I put 1 million Orbeez in this pool," right, and your thumbnail is you in a pool of 1 million Orbeez, when you start the video, the first thing you should say is, "I'm about to put 1 million Orbeez in this pool." It should not be you shopping.
I gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't go into you shopping. That's easy to click off of. But if you started with, I'm going to put 1 million Orbeez in this pool, you already fed the audience dopamine, and now they have a reason to stay to see what it looks like with 1 million Orbeez in a pool.
No kidding.
So
I like that.
Build your content. That's why when I've been doing my vlogs, you know, I'm like, the title is, you know, whatever. And then at the beginning, I throw a clip of whatever the title was referring to. Like, I have one that I haven't exported. I was thinking it's a little short. It was from last night. I had like a half a day. But it's like, I ended up talking about, because somebody asked me, again, how much do I charge for a feature? So the title is going to be how much I charge for a feature. At the beginning, I'm going to be like, I get this question a lot. How much do I charge for a feature? And I'm going to tell you. And then I'm going to roll into the intro, go through my day. And then at the end, it's going to be talking about the feature.
Did like a lot of your audience come from the area you grew up in? Did you grow up in Virginia?
I mean, yeah, I grew up in Virginia. I don't know. I mean, I have, like, my hometown is Culpeper. They support me a lot. It's, you know, I'm not like one of those guys like my hometown hates me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're super supportive. A lot of people know me. I think they like me, you know? I get a lot of good support from Culpeper, which is awesome. Yeah, I don't know if it's a small town, so it's not like the majority of my fan base, you know, it's a very rural town, small town.
Well, that's awesome. All right, Nick. Well, I know you're a busy guy, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you coming on and getting back to me and communicating with me, because it really does mean a lot, and it's awesome to meet you too.
Yeah, me too.
Hey, you know, it's funny, I asked you the first thing, I'm like, you ever do performances up here in Massachusetts?
Yeah.
So, hey, you know what? I hope that one of these days we cross paths again, sir. It has been an absolute honor.
Yeah.
And
I gotta come up that way and do a mini jam session.
Yeah, the mini jam in the in the belly of the Odyssey, not the book, but the minivan.
Yes, sir. I'm about to go record some now. Actually, I'm about to drive to Cakes right now in Fairfax and go record some.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much, and have an awesome day, and just keep killing it. Have an awesome year. Happy New Year's, too, by the way.
Hey, Happy New Year to you, brother.
Peace out, guys. Thank you all so much.